They will tell you that the way to win is to speak. That power belongs to the loudest voice, the sharpest tongue, the one who hurls words like stones until his enemy is buried beneath them. But Machiavelli knew a darker truth. The man who argues reveals himself, while the man who refuses becomes untouchable. Arguments are not contests of logic. They are autopsies of pride. Every word you speak is a vein cut open. Every defense a confession. The one who argues too much makes himself cheap, like a merchant flooding the market with coins of lead. Have you noticed? The more a man explains, the less he is believed. The louder he shouts, the weaker he appears. The more he insists on his innocence, the guiltier he looks. And why? Because the man who is truly strong, the man who knows his worth, does not beg to be understood. He stands silent, letting others destroy themselves with noise. His calm is the knife that cuts their throat. His silence is the hammer that crushes their pride. Picture a courtroom. One lawyer rages, pounding the table, drowning the air with arguments. He believes the flood of words will wash away doubt. But the other lawyer, still, composed, waiting, needs only a few sentences. His silence has built suspense. Every pause sharpened the appetite of the jury. And when he speaks, his words fall like a blade into the silence he himself created. One sentence outweighs the 1,000 frantic ones of his rival. This is the paradox. The fewer words you use, the heavier they fall. Machiavelli observed that men are not swayed by reason, but by appearances. Your silence is not absence. It is an appearance of depth. It is mystery dressed in shadow. When you argue, you surrender your frame. You descend to the arena where fools play. But when you remain silent, you force others to play in your silence. You turn them into actors on your stage, burning their strength while you conserve yours. Think of Alexander the Great. He did not waste time debating his enemies. He crushed them with presence before a single word left his lips. His silence before battle was a force heavier than his armies. Soldiers looked at him and believed he was touched by gods, not because of endless speeches, but because of the power of what he withheld. Or consider the lion. It does not answer the barking of dogs. It does not waste its roar on insects. It saves its power for when it truly matters. And when it roars, the jungle listens. Machiavelli understood this principle. He knew that words are like currency. Flood the market, and they lose value. Hoard them, and when you finally spend them, they are priceless. Now think of yourself. Imagine walking into a room where everyone competes to be heard. Voices overlap, egos collide, and then there is you, silent, still, watching. Do you realize what happens? The room begins to bend toward you. They start to wonder what you are thinking. They ask themselves why you do not speak. They give you the attention they stole from each other. You did nothing, yet you commanded everything. That is gravity. That is silence. And here lies the most ruthless law. When you argue, you chase power away. When you remain silent, power chases you. Silence is magnetic. The more others shout, the more your silence condenses, like a black hole pulling their orbit closer. They cannot escape it. They begin to circle you, desperate for acknowledgement. And when you finally speak, it is not a contribution. It is a decree, but pride will tempt you. You will be insulted, mocked, misrepresented. Someone will laugh at you in front of others, waiting to see if you will break. Your pride will scream, defend yourself, prove them wrong. That is the trap. For the moment you answer, you stoop. The moment you argue, you place yourself at their level. And once you are there, they can reach you. A king who argues is no longer a king. He is a man clawing for dignity, begging the crowd for validation. The throne vanishes the instant you descend into debate. Remember this. Fools argue because they have nothing else. Wise men stay silent because they have everything to lose. When you argue, you gamble your composure. your image, your aura. And for what? To satisfy the crowd? To prove yourself to people unworthy of your time? Machiavelli warned us, a prince is much safer being feared than loved. But to be feared, you must first be unreadable. And nothing makes you more unreadable than silence. Look at history again. Caesar was accused, mocked, threatened. Did he trade insults with small men? No. He answered with silence until the day he crossed the Rubicon. His silence built tension so great that when he finally acted, Rome itself trembled. Napoleon, too, in council, often sat wordless while others argued themselves hoarse. When he spoke, it was final. Silence gave his words the weight of prophecy. Contrast this with lesser men, politicians who never stopped talking, who argued endlessly to prove themselves. Their noise buried them in history's dust, forgotten. And here is the question you must ask yourself. Do you want to be remembered as a politician or a ruler? Politicians argue. Rulers remain silent until they strike. Politicians explain. Rulers decree. Politicians debate. Rulers end debate with a single word, or with no word at all. Think of daily life. A rival mocks you in front of others. He waits for your anger. He wants the theater. If you respond, you give him exactly what he wants. You legitimize him by arguing. But if you give him nothing, no words, not even a glance, you exile him. The crowd does not see two equals in combat. They see a king dismissing a beggar, and nothing burns the heart of your enemy more than being ignored. He wanted to be seen. You made him invisible. That is not silence as retreat. That is silence as execution. Do not underestimate this punishment. To be struck is painful, yes, but it is also acknowledgement. To be ignored is unbearable. To be denied an answer is to be erased. That is why silence is feared more than violence. A wound can heal. Exile lasts forever, and yet silence is more than punishment. It is preservation. When you argue, you spend energy. When you argue, you reveal your hand. But when you remain silent, you conserve everything. Your focus, your composure, your mystery. You stand untouched, while others waste themselves. They grow tired, bitter, exposed. You grow stronger, heavier, untouchable. This is why the man who refuses to argue is not weaker. He is stronger. He is the one who sees further, because he is not blinded by noise. He is the one who plans while others perform. He is the one who wins not by clashing, but by waiting. And when he does speak, when he does act, his presence crushes everything before him. So the next time you feel the urge to argue, remember this. You are not proving your strength. You are proving your weakness. You are not winning, you are spending. And every ounce of strength you spend in arguments is strength you will not have for the battles that matter. The man who refuses to argue remains free to calculate, to maneuver, to strike where it truly counts. Silence is not passivity. Silence is strategy. Machiavelli's whisper echoes through the centuries. The lion does not need to explain himself to the sheep. So ask yourself, do you want to roar with the dogs or rule with the lion's silence? Stay with me, because what comes next is darker still. You will see how silence, once mastered, is not only a shield that protects you, but a weapon that conquers others without a single strike. Silence begins as defense, but once sharpened, it becomes attack. The shield turns into a sword, invisible yet lethal, where words can be blocked, where arguments can be countered. Silence slips past all defenses. It crawls into the mind of your enemy and poisons him from within. You will see this yourself. Imagine a man who insults you in front of a crowd. He expects a battle. He prepares for your fury. He feeds on the anticipation of your reply. But you give him nothing. Not a glare. Not a word. Nothing. The crowd shifts, uneasy. Did you dismiss him as beneath you? Did you see through him so completely that he was unworthy of attention? The uncertainty crushes him. He wanted fire. You gave him ice. He wanted a duel. You gave him exile. He wanted to be seen as your equal. You denied him even that dignity. This is silence as execution, and it cuts deeper than any blade. Understand this. Men can endure hatred. They can endure defeat, but they cannot endure being ignored. To be ignored is to be erased, to be told you do not exist. The punishment of silence is annihilation without blood. That is why silence is feared more than violence. A wound can heal, but to be dismissed, to be denied recognition, is a scar that never closes. Machiavelli knew men sooner forget the death of their father than the loss of their inheritance, and the inheritance men crave most is attention. Deny them that, and you strip them of everything. This is why silence is torture. The unanswered letter, the unreturned call, the withheld response, the ignored question. The mind replays the silence endlessly, trying to fill the void with meaning. Did he despise me? Did he mock me? Did he find me irrelevant? Every possibility is worse than the last, and while your enemy devours himself with doubt, you stand untouched, strengthened by the very void that consumes him. But the true mastery of silence lies not in withholding it always, but in wielding it with precision. Silence used blindly becomes emptiness. Too little, and you seem evasive. Too much, and you seem absent. The art lies in timing. Silence is not the absence of words. It is the deliberate arrangement of them. It is the pause before thunder, the stillness before the blade falls. It is the void that makes the strike inevitable. Think of this. In moments where your authority is questioned, do not rush to defend yourself. Let silence hang heavy in the air until it suffocates the question itself. In moments where your presence is challenged, let stillness answer. Stillness weighs more than any defense, and then, when the silence has grown unbearable, when your enemies are breaking under the weight of it, you release a single phrase, a single word. It lands like iron, not because of the word itself, but because of the silence that framed it. Have you seen this power in action? A room filled with chatter until one man speaks just once, and everyone falls still, not because of his sentence, but because of the silence he guarded before it. Silence is the throne that makes your words into commands. Without silence, your voice is just noise. With silence, your voice becomes decree. Now consider this weapon in politics, in war, in life. Machiavelli advised princes to be both lion and fox. Silence allows you to be both. As fox, you withhold, watching, calculating while others reveal themselves. As lion, your silence is force, a presence that crushes without action. Your enemies grow restless. They reveal secrets. They betray themselves. Silence pulls the truth out of men like venom drawn from a wound. Think of interrogations. Torturers know words are not the sharpest weapon. Silence is. Place a man in a room with no sound, no answer, no feedback, and he will eventually spill everything. His own mind will betray him. He will reveal more to silence than he ever would to words. You must learn to apply this in every conflict. The less you say, the more they reveal. The less you argue, the more they expose themselves. This is how kingdoms collapse, not by armies, but by silence. Rivals shout themselves hoarse, exposing every weakness. Leaders who argue appear desperate, but the one who waits in silence appears immortal. Entire empires were built on this. Do you see now why Machiavelli despised endless talkers? They drained themselves dry, but the rulers who stayed silent until the right moment bent history itself. Remember, when you argue, you defend. When you are silent, you conquer. When you argue, you share the stage. When you are silent, you take the throne. To argue is to admit equality. To refuse is to declare superiority. That is the gulf between rulers and subjects. Power is not closeness, it is distance. Silence creates distance, and distance creates fear. There is an even darker use of silence: punishment. For silence does not only defend or dominate, it destroys. When you ignore a rival, you erase him. He becomes nothing. The man who fights you and loses still holds honor, for at least he was recognized as worthy. But the man you never even answer, he is ash, forgotten, a ghost in history. Which do you think burns more, to lose or to never have been seen? This is the cruelty of silence. It starves the soul of recognition. It reduces rivals not to enemies, but to irrelevance. They would rather be hated than erased. They would rather be struck than dismissed. And yet, when you wield silence properly, dismissal is all they receive. You end the fight before it begins. You win not by victory, but by erasure. But mastery does not stop here. True mastery of silence is not about withholding forever. It is about shaping perception itself. The man who knows when to speak and when to fall silent becomes untouchable. His silence creates myth. His words, when they finally arrive, become legend. People will remember what you did not say more than what you did. They will fill the void with their imagination, crafting stories about you greater than any argument could achieve. Think of great rulers: Caesar, Napoleon, Alexander. They did not argue. They spoke rarely, and when they did, their words lived like prophecy. Why? Because their silence made every syllable rare. Scarcity creates value. Your silence is scarcity. Your words, when finally spoken, are gold in a world drowning in counterfeit. The chatter of their enemies dissolved into dust. Their presence endured. Their silence became legend. Contrast this with talkers, endless arguers, politicians who wasted their fire defending themselves. Where are they now? Forgotten. Their noise buried them. No one quotes their defenses. No one remembers their arguments. But the rulers who withheld, who refused to explain, who rose above debate, they live forever, because silence makes men myth. This is why argument is poison. It kills your aura. It drags you into the mud. It cheapens you. The moment you argue, you beg for validation. You hand power to your opponent. You trade your crown for a begging bowl. But when you remain silent, you need nothing from anyone. And the man who needs nothing is invincible. But make no mistake, this discipline will test you for life. The temptation never leaves. Every day you will be insulted, provoked, baited. You will be misunderstood, misrepresented, even hated. You will feel the fire of pride demanding you to speak, to explain, to defend. And in those moments, silence will feel like suffocation. You will crave the release of words. But if you give in, if you break, you lose everything. The silence you spent years building will shatter in seconds. Most men cannot endure this. They collapse under judgment. They waste their strength proving themselves to those who never mattered. They burn their fire in pointless defense, and they die as ordinary men. But if you can endure, if you can carry the weight of being misunderstood, if you can let others rage while you remain still, if you can allow yourself to be hated without defense, then you will rise. You will step out of the game of men and into the realm of rulers. And what do you gain? You gain the aura no argument can buy. You gain the presence that bends rooms toward you. You gain the silence that makes enemies cautious, allies reverent, and crowds obedient. You gain the throne of perception, the seat from which you do not fight for respect. You receive it without asking. And when you finally speak, it will not be debate. It will be decree. It will not be challenged. It will be obeyed. So understand this final truth. Arguing is surrender. Silence is power. To argue is to be ordinary. To remain silent is to be extraordinary. To argue is to be forgotten. To remain silent is to be immortal. Refuse the noise. Refuse the trap. Refuse the urge to explain. Guard your silence as your crown, and the world will bend beneath it. Now ask yourself, are you willing to bear this discipline? Are you ready to be misjudged, even hated, in order to remain untouchable? Will you endure the void so that others destroy themselves in it? Or will you throw away your crown just to prove yourself to those beneath you? The choice is yours. If this message cut into you, write it in the comments. I choose silence, because the one who argues chases shadows, but the one who remains silent commands reality. And if you are ready, stay with me, because the next lesson will not merely sharpen your silence. It will turn your very presence into a weapon that bends men without a word.